Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 4th Annual Cary Center Nonprofit Summit. We are thrilled to have you with us here today, and we look forward to learning so much with you as we go along in our program. Thank you for joining us this morning to learn more about attracting and maximizing the impact of volunteers with Dena Little, founder and executive director of Storybook Farm. Before we get started, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions or any difficulty at any point during the day, please visit the main meeting room via the link that is in the chat right now. And after this session, you will find the next breakout session links in the chat. So simply click on that link and paste it into your browser, and you can move to the next room. Although if you're staying in this room with us, we next will be doing resource development. And so you won't have to click on anything at all. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dena Little. Dena was born and grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Fresh out of college, she launched DK's Desserts, a wholesale and retail bakery in Atlanta, where she spent 12 years perfecting scrumptious brownies and cakes. A move to Auburn with her 2 young daughters, Maggie and Emma, in 2001, awakened the animal lover in her. She took this love of animals to a whole new level, and when she founded Storybook Farm. And the Storybook Farm's mission is to empower children ages 2 to young adulthood through equine-assisted activities, canine companionship, and exploration in nature. 70 animals and more than 10,000 children later, Storybook Farm has made a positive impact on its participants for the last 18 years. And I think Dena's going to tell us that at the cornerstone of Storybook Farm's success is the countless hours donated by its volunteers. Today, Storybook averages 300 volunteers each week who assist and carry out its mission. During the session, Dena will share her knowledge and experience in engaging with volunteers. Thank you, Dena, for agreeing to work with us today and for sharing your success secrets. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you, Sid, and everyone at the Cary Center for putting this on today. You guys are so nice to include me in your summit, and hopefully I'll share a few things that are new and different approaches to what I consider really a business of volunteering. And my mission at Storybook Farm is to provide animal-assisted therapy. What we do at Storybook is we unite kids and animals to bring about hope and healing. And so today I'm going to speak to you about how we're going to grow and capitalize on your volunteer base and how I've done some things like that and how people are motivated to volunteer, where these individuals actually come from, and also how do we keep them engaged and participating in your organization. And lastly, the importance of establishing a volunteer management system. And that's something I've really learned. I've been doing this for 18 years. And in the beginning, when you have a small amount of people helping, you can kind of wing it and do it yourself and do it on a spreadsheet and kind of keep track of people. But as your base continues to grow, you realize that you miss opportunities to engage people and to be able to be a part of your organization in a really significant and profound way. So hopefully, I can share with you a few things that we've done at Storybook Farm. And this slide shows you what our farm looks like now. We just built our Papa Bear Horse Center, which you see in this photo, actually just opened about a month ago. So we're really excited and tickled about the partnerships that we've cultivated to have this new facility, to be able to welcome more kids and for them to be able to experience really, I think, the unique benefit of being around animals. As Kim mentioned, we have a lot of volunteers. More than 1,200 college-age volunteers are with us each year. They come from us, mainly from Auburn University. We're in close proximity to Auburn. Some students from Southern Union also, and they really engage with us in a variety of ways. We have 3 full-time staff members and serving over 1,500 kids. You can imagine that our volunteer footprint is quite large. We cannot do our programming without volunteer help. And you can see in that little center picture, that's our pony Rumpelstiltskin. And for this little rider, she was requiring three helpers to be in there with her to make sure that she stays safe on horseback. And then to your left in that photo is our little dog, Professor Henry Higgins, and engaging with some cute little kids in hair bows and sitting on the grass and just cuddling up with Higgins. And you know, when you have animals and when you have kids, you just need a lot of help. And what we do with our college age volunteers is we partner them specifically with different children so that they can maximize their relationship throughout the semester, which is exciting. So we place an exceptional value on their impact. And then the right-hand slide photo, you can see some guys coming out to help us repair fencing. So we typically keep the power tools away from the kids, and even some of the college kids don't be needing to be around the power tools. But it takes like an army of people to keep our 51 acres up and going. You'll notice also that our one of our unique selling points about Storybook, I feel, is the creativity that comes along with naming all of the characters at Storybook after literary figures, and then also the places at the farm. So Rumpelstiltskin, Professor Henry Higgins, we have Boo Radley, Sherlock Holmes, lots of animals that are recognizable to the kids, and that gives us a jump off to engage volunteers and also to engage donors and the kids. Well, there's our volunteer driving our mission, and I'm sure for you guys it's the same way. Really, the volunteers are the backbone of an organization, and that's not just a cutesy phrase, it's really the truth. I was surprised when I started researching, and Sid actually encouraged me to do this a while back, about what is the value of a volunteer hour, and to really look at Storybook in a way that I can see the tangible value of all these kids and college kids that come out to Storybook. So you can see that I think one of the latest studies reports it to be over $25 an hour. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's when you think about the quantity of volunteers that come in and out of the door and the expertise and skills that they bring with them, and the fact that 63 million Americans are doing this every year. I think that what that illustrates to me is that volunteering is absolutely priceless, but it's really not free. It comes with a value. And we have, from time to time, businesses that will bring work groups out for team building for their employees, and they'll continue to pay their employees if he or she are at work, and they're actually here at the farm. And so seeing a company invest value in social services like Storybook and other organizations is really so meaningful. And I think it shows you the impact that an employer feels that an employee can give back to their job. And the fact that when we're valuing the volunteer in the workplace or valuing the volunteer here at Storybook, it's really, really important for us to figure out how are we going to harness that value and what are we going to do. And in my opinion, we need to look at the motivations. What's motivating? What's the anatomy of a volunteer? Because purpose is really for everybody. All of us sitting here listening now want to live our life with purpose and want to live our life intentionally. And volunteering is a great outlet to be able to do that. I think it helps you think about yourself and learn a little bit more about yourself and what is important to you and what you can contribute and give back. So these are just a few things that I think constitutes what motivates a volunteer. Obviously developing some skills, new or getting an opportunity to maybe hone in on what you're good at and make yourself even better. I think is an important thing. At Storybook, that's all day long. We have kids that come out here from college that have absolutely never been around a large animal, not worked around children that are facing hardships. And so they really are developing new skills. They are able to put themselves in situations that are empowering. When you walk into an organization or you put yourself out there to volunteer, you may never have been around these people before or been in this situation. And when you accomplish something and you see the results of your work, wow, you feel very empowered, and you take that confidence and you take that feel good back to your work, to your home. And I think that there's a natural trickle down effect. And I think that that kind of confidence builds on each other time and time again. And the more you do it, the more confident you become, the more you engage other people to go out there and volunteer with you. And I think that leads me to the next, connecting with other people. When you're volunteering somewhere, more than likely, I would think you're volunteering with like-minded people. So if you're going after a certain mission-based organization, then you have an opportunity to find other people that are like you. And for our college age volunteers, that's super important. A lot of them, this may be the first time they've left home, they've gone out, they don't know where they are, they have no idea what's going on, and they can feel a little isolated and alone. And Auburn University does a great job of finding avenues for them to plug in. Volunteering is a big thing. Service, giving back is a big thing at Auburn. And so for volunteers that come out here as 18 and 19-year-olds, they're finding a community of people that they understand and that understand them. And I think that's great. And as adults, I think it's just as important for us to connect with other people and to start to bridge a feeling of community. And then you're cultivating empathy. When you can walk in someone else's shoes, it's very different than standing in someone's shoes. And I think that when you are fully invested in an organization and you are there giving it your all, you're really doing more than just standing still. You're physically doing things that allow you to look deeper into someone else's situation. And everything always kind of looks rosy from the outside. But when you really get into the nitty-gritty of helping someone and being behind a purpose, it gives you a chance to feel like your investment is meaningful and you're developing an opportunity to understand someone better. And I think empathy is just necessary in life, always, everywhere. And you can never have enough empathy. You can never understand someone else's circumstances enough. And I think it helps you become a really relational person, and being able to connect with somebody is so important. There's something I think that's termed like the helper's high. So the more you volunteer, the happier you are. And there's all kinds of research on health benefits and other things that engage you in a better way when you are volunteering. And I think that it's wonderful the amount of people that do it, and that the amount of opportunities there are with such specific missions to be able to find that niche that's important to you. But even after you've got the people and you are have a great purpose, you've still got to get yourself to stand out from other organizations and draw the people that you need. So how are you going to inspire volunteers to join your mission versus joining another mission? And in my opinion, it is all about communicating effectively, communicating passionately, and communicating persuasively. And those three things, to be effective and to be passionate and to be persuasive, I think gives you a very strong starting point. Because really, persuasion is the common thread in almost every voluntary transaction. You're persuaded to do something because your friend is doing it. You're persuaded to do something because it's touched your heart. But being able to articulate that message is really important. And so when you have a clear purpose, when you really and truly know what you're doing and what you're hoping to achieve, and you can solidify that mission statement of your organization that encompasses your why, like why are you dedicated to this cause? Because if you, as a founder or an executive role in that organization, if you're not really passionate about it, then nobody else is going to be passionate about it. And you need to be able to understand within yourself, why are you giving your time and efforts towards that? And you've got to be able to put that out there in a clear and effective way. So the clear purpose is really important, just as important as your strong message, which is simple and it's direct and it's basically storytelling. You need to be able to tell your story. You need to give your cause a face and a personality and a voice. And as I mentioned before, for Storybook, our strong message and our voice a lot of times comes through the animals, through these stories and this literature-based program that we've got. And so we can stand apart with our message of how animal-human bond is changing the lives of children that are challenged by a great deal of hardships. And that makes it easy for people to connect to us. So you need to figure out within your realm and your nonprofit and your participation, how are you going to cultivate that really strong message? And when you've got the message and you understand the purpose behind it, then you've got to have a really strong call to action. And this is things I've really had to learn. And you would think in 18 years of doing Storybook Farm, I would have a gist of what I'm doing, but it's always a learning process. And I have learned a whole heck of a lot in the last 3 or 4 years about how important it is to have consistent digital marketing and how important it is to keep your website updated and to use all of this great technology. A lot of it I don't understand. So fortunately, I've got people surrounding me that know how to do this and can put together great marketing plans and utilize the technology. And for us, we use a lot of monthly newsletters. We connect with our donor base and with our volunteers and with our constituents a lot via email. And we do things with a consistent look. And that's something I've had to learn. I'm all about reinventing the wheel, unfortunately, from time to time. And sometimes that's not a great thing to do. Sometimes you just need to stick with what you're doing so you can brand yourself over and over and over again. And then you have those kind of key phrases. For a long time, we called ourselves like hope on horseback. And we are, and that's a little terminology when you say it. I think I've branded myself for all these years with that. Now, when I've had to look back at my purpose, I've had to reformulate things a little bit because our programming has expanded. So now our key phrases are things more like we're changing childhoods, we're giving children childhoods back to children, because now we do even more than just horseback riding. We do a canine program and a reading program and a nature program and all these things. And so the Hope on Horseback didn't grow with us like our programming did. So we're going to have to learn that it's always a fluid thing. This is not something that once and done. You're always, I think, looking back at what you're doing and trying to make sure the message that you're putting out there is matching what you're actually doing. So where all these people are coming from that get here to do volunteer work. For us, the first one, colleges and universities are it. 99% of our volunteer base is college. And that is very intentional. We need that youth and that energy and that creativity out here because there's so many moving parts, literally and physically out here. We are walking miles in Paddington Station Arena with the kids on horseback. We're all over this 51-acre farm. So for us to captivate that college and university is really important. But also, for the first time in history, there are more people over 60 years old than there are people under 18. So it's a great opportunity for you to sort of seize that second act for greater good, which pulls you into clubs and community groups and into retirees and businesses and church groups. I mean, there is a limitless amount of people out there if you just ask. And that's the thing, you've got to just get yourself out there, ask, and it's a domino effect. Once you kind of get worked in, for us, we got worked into professors at Auburn. And when we had opportunities to partner with some of their students, that naturally led us to more and more students and more students, which has been great for us. And we actually waitlist volunteers from Auburn University. So when you know where these volunteers come from, I think it's equally important to understand the ways that they can engage with you. And I haven't actually, until I started doing a little research about this, really thought about how this translates. And when I did a little research, I found this chart, which I thought was pretty great. I simplified a little bit because it was kind of involved. But in essence, people get involved with you two ways. They're either getting involved with you because your cause matters to them. They're affiliated with your cause. They feel good about giving back. Maybe it's you work with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundations, for instance, and you have a child that has cystic fibrosis. Immediately, you're going to join that because it's a personal thing for you. You have a personal connection to that organization, and that's awesome. Oftentimes, it can be something completely opposite, and it's more skill based. And so you've got talent. Your career puts you in a position where you can help a nonprofit with specific things. So you can have an episodic type of volunteer affiliation where you have people that are coming out working alongside each other, like a work group from a business or from a community club. And they're coming out for a one-time big thing. For us, maybe we're building a fence, or we're painting something, or we're expanding our garden, and we just need a lot of people out there for a one-time thing. Or maybe we partner up with an accounting firm because we need to get our income taxes done, or we need to partner with a veterinarian who will come out and do vaccines for us twice a year. So those kind of things are really transactional, important, but still they're kind of a one and done, unless you take the opportunity to steward those volunteers at that moment. And sometimes the group is too large and it's hard to connect. You can't run around and connect with 100 people. But sometimes if the group is a little bit smaller, you can have a one-on-one touch point with people while they're out there, and you can turn them into the long-term volunteer. And you can get them back out because now they've had a little taste of what you do. And now if you can steward that relationship with the organization, you can steward that relationship with the individual, they become more committed to your cause, and they become the volunteer that's your go-to, that will do any and everything for you. And we've had that happen so many times, where kids come out with an organization called Impact that's on Auburn's campus that helps kind of gather kids together, college children that want to come out and do something, but they don't know really where to go, and they maybe don't even have transportation to get there. And a lot of those volunteers have come back to volunteer on an individual basis. And equally important are the long-term business relationships that you can have. And for us, this was a huge thing. We had an organization, a local builder that started off in that upper right-hand corner as a skill-focused, one-time participant at Storybook. We needed a deck built, and they came out and built a deck on our pavilion. And for them to build our deck, they build hundreds of homes a year, was like a drop in the bucket. Be like me going to groom somebody's horse. It's just no big deal because I do it all the time. But for me, it was huge to have something professionally built and done to such a level. But what that did was it started a conversation between us, and we developed this relationship. And when I had a little thing here and there to do, I would call them and ask them how to do it. And oftentimes they would send somebody out to fix it. Well, when I had an opportunity to basically transform my entire farm, tear down our existing facility and rebuild it, as you saw in the earlier slide of the Papa Bear Horse Center, I mean, I made a beeline to their office and said, what do? I have this wonderful grant. I have this great partnership with this foundation. How do I capitalize on this? So they partnered with us for over a year and a half, and actually brought in over 50 of their subs and suppliers to come in and to build this facility. So now we took that one time of building this nice deck, and we turned it into a partnership of over 50 different companies that now, not even in our area, they know what Storybook is, and they've heard of it, and they've partnered. And they did it because of the relationship they have with that builder. They did it because that builder has been so good to them and has stewarded those relationships that it mattered to them what their local cause was. So it was just, it's been beautiful, it's been wonderful, and it's been transformative. So building relationships like this take time, and they take intention, but they can really give back to you in so many ways you can't even imagine going forward, in the future. So sometimes you need the quality over the quantity. And that would be in situations where you need a specific skill set. So you need to be able to identify the project that you're working on or the programming that you're doing, and whether you need to have someone in a key demographic area or with a specific skill. Because all of the previous slides aren't going to matter doing all those things if you're not talking to the right people, and you're not targeting and addressing those who are going to truly care about your mission. And that takes a little bit of research, and that takes a little bit of intentional thought about what kind of characteristics do we need in our volunteer base and what is going to help us push our needle forward. And, for us, it's almost kind of straightforward because we're working with animals and we're working with children. So for instance, we're a horse farm. So we appeal and target horsey people, the horsey group, of which there's a lot in Auburn. A lot of students come to Storybook because they've left their horse at home and they're in college and they miss that interaction. And sometimes it's kids that are in education. They want to gain experiences working with children and in a diverse population. So if you can identify that and you can ask questions for better recruitment, take the time to get to know these people, ask questions about who they are and what their goals are. And we often, I think, overlook sort of looking at things in a demographic way as far as generations of baby boomers or Generation X or millennials. And, millennials, poor things, they kind of get the bad shake of things. Everything is always blamed on the self-absorbed millennial, but I don't know that that's really accurate or that it's fair. They're definitely the largest generation, I think, in the history of the United States. And I was interested to learn that 6 out of 10 of them select their job based on the sense of purpose that company has and how much pro-social involvement that they have in their community. So I think that this group of people really put a lot of importance on experiences rather than material things. So as a nonprofit leader, you can offer them these experiences. Where else are they going to get them? And you have a unique opportunity to broaden their horizons, but you've got to know kind of who you need and why you need them. And then conversely, sometimes you just need the warm body. You just need a big group of people to come in for a one-time deal, as we mentioned before. But with that, you do have the opportunity to network. And things like, for us, student organizations are big. And actually, Storybook on Auburn University's campus has its own organization. Some kids got together after they had volunteered here for a while and said, we want to create an organization and we're going to call it Students for Storybook. And we want to be able to promote your mission on Auburn's campus. And that's a great opportunity for us. But for everybody, you can get involved in career fairs. You can get involved with sending out flyers, speaking to me. Those civic organizations, they always need somebody to talk to them. They're always looking for somebody to pop in there and share what's going on in their community. And they would love to hear from you. And a lot of times, that's a great opportunity to, in a broad way, share what you're doing and give an overview. And of course, social media. You can always put a plea out there for, we're having a big event. When we have our Easter event at Storybook, we hide like something unbelievable, literally like 10,000 Easter eggs for kids to come and hunt all over our farm. So you can imagine the time it takes to stuff 10,000 Easter eggs and put them out and get everything else together. So in those situations, we do market it to a big crowd of people. It doesn't matter if they have specific skill sets or not. We just need some warm bodies. So with all that, if you are going to become more intentional about attracting volunteers and really investing in them, you have to do it in a strategic way. And this is something that I've learned in the last couple of years. It's really important to invest in your infrastructure. And I read a really interesting article that opened my eyes to something about a year ago. And it was talking about the kind of misconception that has happened in nonprofits. It's sort of the 100% of everything that's donated goes back to the program. And that sounds great. And in some cases, I think with really large organizations, that's true because they have somebody that's underwriting all of the keeping the lights on stuff. But for small organizations like Storybook, we have to invest in our infrastructure in order to be efficient. And in order, in this situation, to be able to manage and to grow your volunteer base. If you don't have something that is software oriented or a staff member that's dedicated to having a point of contact for these volunteers, you're going to kind of lose track of everybody. I mean, it's just inevitable. And volunteers need that touch point. They need somebody that they can go to, and an authentic relationship is easy to build on. And you need to be able to communicate with them. You need to be able to communicate your expectations, give them a job description about what they're going to be doing and how their efforts are really impacting your mission. And you've got to give them something to share. So recognize efforts that they do. If they, really engaged for us, maybe with a family, with a parent that it was their first time at Storybook, and they took the time to really engage with that family, with that parent who's feeling a little uncomfortable or a little uneasy or worried, and made that connection and made that family and feel so much more at home at Storybook and like already part of who we are and what we do, then call them out at the end of the day and say, Lucy, you did an awesome job. Gosh, you really made Mrs. So-and-so feel so much better about her time here and really made it matter, make her understand it matters that she's here, because that gives them a little tiny tidbit to take back home with them. And they share that with their parents, or they share that experience with their roommate or whatever. And that builds this word of mouth marketing for you. And that builds, when you have a good experience, you just naturally want to run and share it with someone else. So if you establish that personal relationship with your volunteer base, it's going to make a huge, huge difference. And if you are going to have them at the farm, in my situation, I've got to learn to trust them and not micromanage them. And that was very, very hard for me. I'm super particular about the care my animals get. I'm very conscious of the way the place looks and the landscaping and the appearance and the culture that we've created at Storybook is very personal to me. So to let that go was hard, to let someone else kind of take that over and understand what I want to do and trust them to do it. And I think when you do that, when you communicate that you're trusting someone, coming back over and over, because if you treat them like a task force, inevitably they're just going to switch up and go somewhere else. I mean, they need to be passionate about what they're doing at the farm for us, and they need to be the hero of that story. You need to be able to articulate that to them. And sometimes this infrastructure is going to cost money. It's just going to, but the efficiency that you're going to get and derive from it is going to be great, because really the reward for you as an executive director or in a leadership position of a nonprofit is that everything is running smoothly. And you've done a great job of getting a stellar group of accountable and loyal volunteers there. And that makes your job a gazillion times easier. And you're accomplishing your mission, and you're able to do more and more and more. And I think that's super important to understand what makes a volunteer stick. So at this point for us, how do we steward our volunteers? We build community and we show appreciation like nobody's business. We are constantly showing appreciation, because what we want to do is improve the experience for existing volunteers. So we're not always on the hunt for new volunteers. We do have turnover because, a kid comes to college and their parents hope they graduate and leave college. We hope they stay and go to grad school. We hope we also get them when they're freshmen so that we can still enjoy them when they're seniors. But by and large, the stewarding of the volunteer is a super important thing. So we build this community at Storybook with a very authentic volunteer experience. We intentionally talk to them in the beginning of their application process. We take the time to get to know them. We get to meet them personally. We set the tone for what our Storybook personality is, and we communicate with them individually. We don't send out mass emails. We always, dear Lucy, dear John, dear everybody, so that it's a personal connection. We do that with our donor base. We do that with our volunteers. We do that with our families. And so volunteers receive that same individualized care and attention that we give to everybody else. We tailor their experience. We match them with their passion. If they're a horticulture major or they're a nutrition major, well, they're going to want to go in our secret garden and learn and study and grow our programming that engages kids in nature. We want to listen to them when we want to invite their ideas, because they've got great ideas. This age group is full of creativity. I mean, it's like pouring out of them. And for me, for us to be able to keep Storybook new and fresh after 18 years, it's really the result of these kids. And we want to hear their stories. We want to be able to attract great people who attract even more great people. And we show appreciation. And for us, it's so easy. College kids love to eat. That's it. We feed them, and we feed them often, and we feed them a lot. And for starters, for you, one of the easiest ways to create this relationship is to be present and to watch what they're doing and literally telling them thank you right on the spot. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and reward them. And if you have an opportunity for your key leadership to be able to do that, it's really meaningful. And it just continues to build that community. And for us, we recognize their work by promoting them to leadership positions. We have a narrator position for volunteers that have been with us a while that take over the leadership of a day, and they become the point person for all the volunteers on that day. And they run the whole day's activities, and they partner up with the volunteers, and they understand what kind of needs that they have. And that takes a little pressure off of our staff so that we can do our jobs as well. So I think if you can recognize and thank, you're going to build that impact, you're going to keep and retain volunteers, and you're going to attract even more people. And there's our little stuff. If you would like to follow around what Storybook is doing, we'd love to have you subscribe to our newsletter. It's at the bottom of our homepage, or follow us on social media. So hopefully that was a little bit insightful into some different ways to get some people out there to support all the great work that you guys are doing in the community.
Dena, thank you so much for that presentation. Really do appreciate it. Hey, we've got a couple of questions in the chat room, or in the chat box, from Michael Trainer. What vetting do you require for your volunteers?
That's a great question. We have, in the very beginning, when we didn't have as many volunteers, we did background checks on everybody. But now, because our college base of supporters for volunteers, the university, we're fortunate that they kind of vet for us. And so we were able to take that responsibility off our plate. We definitely keep a lot of touch points on volunteers, and we have a lot of communication with them. So we rely on communicating with our professors and with the faculty at Auburn to help us with the process of getting the correct volunteers here. But I think that vetting a volunteer is important. And I think background checks are important, particularly if you're working with youth, for instance. Ooh, I think I lost your audio, Sid.
I'm sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay, so from Candace over at the Girls Ranch, you host a banquet annually to thank volunteers and donors. If so, what does that look like?
Oh gosh, we're always hosting somebody. We really try to tailor the experience. For instance, Farmhouse Fraternity is one of our partnerships, and we're their local philanthropy. So we have those guys out as a group every year to say thank you. And we get up and talk about all the great partnerships that we've had with them through the years now, and really try to solidify that relationship. And that's one of those infrastructure things that's going to cost a little bit of money, but in the long run, when someone feels appreciated, and you've taken the time to put on an entire banquet or an entire event, no other intention of just being appreciative, it goes such a long way. I would really encourage you to do that. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, and people really don't care what the food is or anything else. They just want that sense of community to get together, and it gives them an opportunity to meet other people that they may not have even known. There at the Girls Ranch, you've got a place to be able to do it. I think what holds some people back is they've got to rent a venue and do those types of things, and that makes it tough. But if you've got a place right there, and people want to come out and do something at your facility when it's not work related.
Okay, we've got one other question in the chat box, and we're about down to the last few minutes. So Kim asked, how do you turn down people who want to volunteer that you may not want or need? What have you found is the best way to say thanks, but no thanks?
What a terrible but awesome question. This has happened to me on numerous occasions. It's tough. Sometimes people come out and volunteer that day and you're like, I don't really think that they're fitting in the personality of or the culture or have the skill sets that we need. So basically we always talk to them or try to face because things can get misconstrued over a text or an email and you can't really set the tone. So basically we profusely thank them for being there that day and we take it back on us. Like, we'll get in touch with you when we need your help again. And sometimes I get locked in over an entire semester because I have a volunteer that starts and I've got to ride out the whole semester with them. And sometimes I just don't do a personal invite back. And that is hard to do. It is. And I think if it's face-to-face, it's better than it is, which makes it a little more awkward on your end. But I think you can control the narrative better than you can if you do it via email or text, although it's uncomfortable and it happens. I hate to say it. Ugh.
So a couple of comments here, Dena, in the chat box. Dena, thank you so much for your insight. You run an incredible organization that does mighty work in this community. Looking forward to meeting you in person at some point. This is from Melinda McClendon at the Exceptional Foundation. Yeah. And Hope with Hattie's Home adds, thank you so much for the fabulous presentation. What an army of volunteers you have raised up. I appreciate your time today and sharing your wonderful experience.
Well, thank you. It was awesome. I had a great time.